Talofa, and welcome into another episode of the 135 Footy Show, proudly part of the WesWes Network. You can go check us out on all social platforms as well as the website, weswesnet.com. You'll be able to find our podcast and all the rest, including articles from the team as well. One of our journalists, our columnists from the WesWes Network, Bob Savalio. Welcome back, Horse. Possibly the last ep of the season. Thanks, Horse, for jumping on, man.
Sorry, let's start again.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, man, it's good to be back. To wrap another season. It's been a long one. You know, I was just saying that, we're always hanging out for the league season to start, and just like that, 27 rounds are gone, the playoffs gone, and now the grand final's just around the corner. So, man, let's get into it. It's been a long season, but it's been a good one, and there's still a massive grand final to come. So, let's get into it.
All right, also, let's start off with your the bad stuff. Let's get Kaya Kele first, man. Let's start there, and we'll make it better.
See, bro, my Kaya Kele came from the Cronulla Sharks game, and I'm going to give mine to the man who was talking it up all week, the Gamalo Rondog, he brought the energy, he brought, the hype that you need in one of those sort of preliminary finals. Like, he had that energy, but I think the man wore himself out, because when it came to game time, he was like lapses on defense. He was a little bit off on attack, and he didn't quite bring that same intensity that they did the previous week in the game against the Raiders, where they took out the minor premiers. So yeah, I don't want to put an Island brother down, but I thought, Kaya Kele, for me, he was so talked up, hyped up during the week, and I think he just gave too much ammunition to the Storm team. All this Rondog rubbish ended up biting him in the ass, and yeah, his game didn't really fire, I feel, and they scored a few tries on his wing. So my Kaya Kele for the weekend's games goes to Ronaldo Mulitalo.
Unlucky Ronaldo. Yeah, it's a hard. I love Ronnie. Like, I think it's because he puts himself out there, like you said. He puts a target on himself, but I guess that's the way he likes to play, and unfortunately, he just couldn't match his. Because usually, that's what the way he does it is. He'll put it out there because he wants to back it. He wants to be able to, like, I'll put my actions where my mouth is. And like you said, the week before, he was able to back it up. So, yeah, unfortunately for Ronnie, I'm going with the same game. I'm actually passing mine to the officials. I know I've been picking on them all year, but it's another one for Klein. And I think most people agreed, he's missed out on getting the call up for the grand final. 18 to 20 penalties in a game, and it showed, like, just the intensity, the speed of that game. Just it was quite broken. I don't know if that helped the Storm, because Fitzgibbon mentioned it in his presser, saying that the first half was like the ball was only in play 22 minutes, and then the NRL jumped back. Oh no, we checked that it's 25 minutes. Still not 40. So yeah, Kaya Kele goes to Klein, and just the way he officiated that game really killed the flow of that game. Your all eyes.
There's probably a few contenders for all eyes. You look at that Broncos Panthers game, and a lot of those guys kind of cancelled each other out. And I know the Bronx sort of come back and snatch that one from the Panthers. But my all eyes actually goes to someone from the first game in that Storm Sharks game, and it goes to Jerome Hughes. This guy went off a few weeks back with a fracture in his wrist, or whatever the injury was. And you saw it when he tried to throw a long ball, and then he was in pain. And I was thinking, so that's the Storm done. And I honestly thought the chances of Storm progressing with Jerome out was, they were gone, man. See you in 2026. But Jerome came back, and he had on this, like, cast. It was a lot lighter than the old. You can remember those Mal Meninga days when he played the finals with his busted arm, and he had that big white cast. Yeah, well, that's what the commentators were talking about, how he had all these screws that were holding his sort of bone in place, and then he had that cast over the top, and it was the magic of modern medical technology that have enabled Jerome Hughes to play in the weekend, and not only just play, like he didn't just turn up. Like the commentators at the start were saying, "Oh, I would target that edge. I would target his left shoulder and run it all day." Blah blah blah. Man, he was tackling everything. Not only that, he set up a few tries and then he scored one himself. So, Jerome Hughes, they must have been thinking, he's going to be susceptible to our runners. we got big edge forwards that can run at him. Man, he just nullified all of that and some. Like he was playing like old Jerome Hughes that wasn't injured. And so if they thought there was an advantage in running at Jerome Hughes or targeting him during the game, man, he just sort of answered that with a score a try and set tries up, and nothing got past him on defense. So my all eyes for the weekend's game goes to Jerome Hughes.
Yeah, he was impressive. Like, well, just the stories I've heard about the technology that went. So I've researched. I try to look up different articles. So it was like a bigger plate with some screws and that. But man, I was talking to my brother Pete. If you're listening, also, and you got some wowzers. He's telling me, man. So the doctors, they had this like open arm surgery, and they got these like UV lights, like hardening the bone with this glue. It's like, solid, man, that's amazing. So I was like, researching, hey, man, where did you get the story from? But he was really impressive. Like, I think a lot of people thought he'd do similar to Kronk in that final where, he was just coordinating and moving the players around, but not actually. So, yeah, the fact that he was in the line making those tackles, like you said, Tessie, there was one where Blake ran and kind of stepped back in, so it was against that arm, and he went for the tackle. I think he got some help, but still, like, I think, just his courage to go out there, like, well, if it's going to happen, let's go play this like a final, and if it goes, it goes, because that's the way he played. Like, there was no second thought of, I've got to feel in my arm because it's, in this thing. He just went for it, and good call on Hughes. Like, that was a brave display, and great signs for Storm. I think everyone agrees with you. Like when he went, when everyone saw that, they were like, well, I think that unfortunately that's the Storm's hopes that they will go far. But so the fact that he's back and he's back like that, they go a long way. We'll get into how far we think they'll go later. My all eyes, I give it to probably an obvious one, but I'm going with Adam Reynolds. Like just the demons that must have been there for him to take that. And the take, it sounds like Walsh gave him the ball. Like Walsh told him his legs were tired and gave him the ball to ice it. Yeah, so that's clutch because it's like not to get angers. Like, I got this and take it. And he took it with confidence. He was saying, he had, envisioned and wanted to look forward to that day, like a redemption. So it's amazing that to take such an important kick for them, because that could have just been twice. The Broncos fans would be like, this guy. So, I give my flowers to Reno just for that, being brave, the courage for him to step up in that moment and ice it as well. So, job's not done, but a bit of redemption, let's call it that, for Adam Reynolds in all eyes. Nice awards there. Also, let's go straight into some exciting news for the future of the Warriors. New South Wales Cup Champions taking out St. George, and doing it with a lot of those boys that came and helped out the top side. So to see them getting a chip, it was awesome. Your thoughts on that team? They've been doing it all year, so they've been real impressive. Good signs for the future as well.
Yeah, they've been really impressive. The reserves grade team, and what I've really enjoyed about what Webster's done with the Warriors this year is he's brought a lot of those boys up into the top side. And so, you saw a lot of them come up through to the top side because of injury. But then there were some of them as well that he kind of left them there because of form, or he was trying to rest players. Guys got exposed to that top flight footy. And one guy that I really like is Sam Healy at hooker. That guy he's electric, man. And, I love Wade Egan, but I love the youth and that excitement that youth brings. Sam plays with a lot of, just youthful abandon. He doesn't sort of, he plays like he's enjoying the game and he loves to sort of play it, but he's got that real maturity that you see in like older hookers who've been there, done that, and it's real Cameron Smith like the way that he sort of plays. That same sort of speed from dummy half. When he decides to run the ball, it's exciting. Man, the Warriors need to lock that boy down so that when Wade Egan's gone, they've got a shoo-in. And we've had guys come in before. What's that guy's name? Who's the blondie that was there, sort of running second fiddle at hooker?
Lussick.
Yeah.
Freddie Lussick.
Yeah, Freddie. And every time he sort of stepped up, he just, he didn't really offer anything more to sort of lay claim to the hooker spot whenever Egan was out. And it just looked really pedestrian. Like, it just looked like, you step into the role and you try and add your own sort of flavor to it or make it different. I don't feel like Freddie really did that when he took the field in the top side or when he was given an opportunity. But Sam, in the few opportunities he's been given in the top side team, he's really taking it, man, and he doesn't look out of place in that first grade side. So good on the reserve grades for taking it out. Like, they've been dominant all year. I think the expectation for them was they were just going to go straight through, but then that loss to St. George meant that they had to go the long way and sort of face the Eels and send those guys off and then meet St. George again in the grand final. So, I mean, it's exciting. I was talking to Caleb about it because it was Burley that took out the Queensland Cup, and he was going, man, the New South Wales Cup team's going to be stacked with all these guys that have had NRL experience, whereas Burley's Q Cup team are just made of like journeyman rugby league guys or semi-professional. This is not really there. Yeah, because Burley are a feeder team to the Titans. But I don't. I don't think they're quite up to the caliber of some of the New South Wales Cup teams. Like, I don't. That, to be honest, barring something stupid, crazy like Susan handing out diarrhea tablets to the Warriors prior to their interstate cup final next weekend before the grand final, the Warriors should coast home in that game against Burley. So, I mean, the boys are going to be up for it anyway. They're not going to be taking it lightly because it is like the interstate grand final. So it's something that they'll want to take out because it's something that these Queensland and New South Wales teams, it's like their state of origin. It's like at club level, this is their state of origin. So to have like a New Zealand team sort of come in and say shit on all the New South Wales teams and then go up to the interstate,
Queensland,
and then take out a Queensland team, it sets the Warriors up for really good stead in the future. I just don't know whether they'll be able to hold on to all of that talent. Like, there's a whole lot of boys. I mean, yes, they had a whole lot of old heads in there as well, guys like Bunty. That was sort of
good on Bunty getting a
good on Bunty. Seeing off the end of his Warriors stint, winning some silverware for the club. So it's positive. And it's good that the Warriors made up for that loss to St. George a couple of weeks back, because that was really unexpected. And I think the input of all the boys that have had the NRL experience has allowed them to, really dominate and take out that St. George team. Oh, yeah, Mr. Johnny come lately.
Speaking of journeyman, welcome in, Us. Welcome, Roger, to the 135 Footy Show, mate. How's it been? Been a while, man. Haven't seen you since your Mad Monday.
Just getting the suntan on in Bali. Just waiting for the Broncos to come over as well.
Hey, shots already.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
It's Mad Monday for both of them anyway after next week.
Good timing, mate. Good timing is a topic that you might be familiar with. I just wanted to touch on the Rugby 360 competition, the international comp that's kicking off next year, stealing a lot of really good league players, high-profile players going. So a whole bunch of names being linked. Pappenhausen, RTS, Jai Gray, and as recently Zach Lomax. So yeah, I think they're pulling in a lot of players. In terms of union, before I come to you, Bob, Rog, do you know much about this rugby comp? Like,
No, I've only just seen it as well as everyone else has been. The revelation of it as of just as late as last night, early this morning. So I think everyone's sort of waking up to the news that this rogue competition, if you like, but it looks like it's going to be spinning serious money, luring a lot of these rugby league stars away. And I think one of the headlines is up to 10 NRL players believed are committed to the competition. So, yeah, not sure that the names, as you mentioned there, Tana, but it'll be, I guess there's going to be, I think, more unfolding as the days and the weeks sort of lead into Christmas. We'll hear a little bit more about it, but I didn't even know where this competition is to be held. You know, this is going to compete against, because I compete against the domestic competitions that are around at the moment, around the world, Super Rugby down these ways. And then there's talks of the Rugby Championship taking a hiatus for a couple of years as well. So maybe that's to accommodate this. Who knows? But we'll see how it'll affect the Northern Hemisphere competitions like the Six Nations, Top 14, because will it run at the same time as their season or the season down this way?
Interesting, the players they've chosen, like that they're going to markets. I wonder if I don't even know if it's different franchises or if it's the body itself just pulling these players up. Bob, your thoughts? They're taking some big names.
It's not just the NRL. Like, they're targeting rugby players, like international players who are based around the world. Like, there was news that came out back in August that they had targeted 4 odd Springboks, a host of England internationals. So they're targeting a lot of New Zealand players that aren't based in New Zealand. So there's been no talk of like any current All Blacks in the squad or that have been targeted for signings, but there's been talk that they're targeting offshore-based New Zealand players. You know, and you saw the amount of interest people like, what's his face?
We're from
Matanonu. Matanonu. You saw the amount of interest that Matanonu brought to like the American rugby game when he signed for those 1 year or whatever, 2 years in that American sort of rugby competition that was happening over there. Yeah, man. And the amount of money that an ex-All Black, even an ex-All Black that played like 10 years ago, he's still generating money for those competitions and interest, and people are sort of watching it because of the prestige that ex-All Blacks bring. So if you've got a competition that's being touted as this real global Grand Prix like approach, like from what I've read for Rugby 360, it's not just going to be based in one country. Like whoever's backing it is trying to do like a global thing. So they'll have like games in London, games in Tokyo. They're going to go around Paris. Like they're planning to take these players and teams across the world. And so, you know, and that's clever, man, because they're going to target all the big rugby countries that have lots of money. So the French, the Japanese, the European teams, like they obviously wouldn't fly all the way down to New Zealand, even though we're good at rugby. We're not financially lucrative, so they're not going to fly people all the way here. They might do America because there's heaps of money in America to get behind things like sports betting and that sort of stuff that could generate another income source, TV deals, all of that sort of shit. It's going to be massive. And so just this talk of these 10 NRL players, like that's probably just the tip of the iceberg. There's probably a whole host of players in the Super League that are being targeted, players that will bring prestige to their competition. And it's something that lots of, not just rugby league, but rugby union competitions around the world need to sort of take seriously. I know Andrew Abdo has spoken about how, there's no base, there's no sort of administrative sort of function to this Rugby 360. I'm not threatened by it. He's kind of writing it off and just saying that it's just a group of people with a lot of money chucking it at players. And I'm like, Sole, the minute it gets organized and gets some sort of cohesion around who's doing all of that administrative work, so they're going to be in big trouble, because if they're chucking these big, massive money offers to these really good players, and guys like RTS, even though they're at the back end of their careers, they can still play, man. And you can see that Martin Onu, who played 10 years after he finished from the ABs and still playing competitively. Yeah, still playing, like at a really high competitive level, not at I'm LeBron James and now I'm going to be wrapped in toilet paper for the next few years. I think he's the oldest
player ever to score in the top 14 now at 43.
Yeah, man, and good on Mata. Like, that guy's been looking after himself. He's been all that stuff that he learned at the ABs around sports nutrition and strength and conditioning. Like, he's still taking it and he still loves playing rugby. Obviously, it's not just about money. He still enjoys playing. So good on Mata. But yeah, they need to take this Rugby 360 seriously, because it has the potential to take on even international games, which I know the International Rugby Board probably don't want to hear, but World Rugby is what they call it. Been out of the loop too long.
It'd just be interesting. Like you say, there's no base for it too, Bob. But how are they going to make it work? What's the format? Because it looks like I'm looking at saying founded by former England rugby player Mike Tyndall. So he's obviously in the Northern Hemisphere. You got the English Premiership, top 14. Those are the premier competitions in the North. And if they're going to either try and attract players from those competitions, as well as Rugby League, Super League up north, as you mentioned, Bob, and then down here in the NRL, and then other rugby players that are really plying their trade in places like Japan, America. It's going to be interesting how they try and fit around all these other competitions, including the American one, which has sort of taken a bit of shape over the last few seasons now. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting how they can work around and establish another competition. Yeah.
Like with the bases, like I wonder if it's going to be more like
how many
7 circuit, not every week. Maybe
How many teams are they looking at? Because you're looking at Asafo Solomona as well. Nelson's another name that's in talks. And it's like, what position would he play as a rugby player? He would have to get used to playing rucks. He's going to definitely be a forward.
Yeah, is probably a winger as well.
Or is he? He might be like a Will Skelton lock. But then, the intricacies of playing lock, as well as knowing how to engage in a ruck, a scrum even. The big bodies, but the technicalities and the intricacies of a scrum.
To look for guys who have played, maybe
before
some kind of rugby in their past.
So
Nelson was number 8 back in under sixes.
They're probably looking for another guy just as tall as Nelson. But I mean, he's tall in rugby league, but he's not overly tall in rugby union. They've got guys who are his height in union, if not taller, like guys who are 6'6", 6'7".
That's it. For a prop, he'd be amazingly tall, but as a flanker, lock, I don't know if he's as tall as a Will Skelton. I know Asafal's quite tall, but just be, what technical sort of aspects will he be able to adapt to and sort of learn in such a short time frame?
They need to find someone who's just as tall as him if he's going to be a locking partner.
But if they're saying all these...
no balance in that scrum.
all these players, but 6 men's teams. 6 men's teams starting on October the 2nd and finishing before Christmas. What does that mean? So, 6 teams. And there's only 10 NRL names and a sprinkling of rugby player names.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. But maybe more festive kind of Yeah, it'll be interesting how they go.
It probably will be, but imagine if there were 6 teams that are like full of barbarians. You know how everyone goes to watch the Barbarians games because of all those international players that make up a Barbarians team? Imagine 6 of these teams, but they're not just made up of old players. They've got current young players as well. Yeah, bro.
Especially
So
across different codes, just exciting. Because I wonder if they'll probably have some mean AFL just to bring something different, just see them catching.
yeah, bro, it's got the potential to blow up massive.
Yes.
Nice, boys. All right, let's get back into the league. Let's go kick off with our reviews. We'll start with the Storm Sharks game. I mentioned it before. Klein's officiating in that game kind of slowed the flow. Man, you mentioned it, Bob. Just Pappenhausen's input and Jerome Hughes, just his courage and the way he took that on. And I thought Money Magic Munster, he was at his best and he's looking scary. So I think that's going to be a good matchup. Just that style of him bouncing around, finding opportunities. Your guys' thoughts on the game? Roger, you catch that one? Oh, was that Friday?
Yeah, Storm and who was it? Who was it that were
Sharks.
Cronulla Sharks. Yeah, Cronulla came in pretty hot, after sort of winning, I believe, convincingly the week before. But they had a lot to play for. I'm not sure what the stats were coming in as to their record, but I mean the Storm, they've been there many times and they're having the injection of Jerome Hughes coming back from injury, even unsure as to whether he'd make, this game. But I think the way he was, the courage that he showed in that first try that he scored, it was crazy how he was able to break the line and then, get through and still get over the line. And especially after the injury that he's carrying with all the, I don't know, just so I was saying, he's probably got a few cortisone injections in him as well to get him through the game. But, it's amazing seeing him when he got injured a few weeks back. That just thought that was his playoff stun, and it's crazy how if, a bit of will and a bit of the medical prowess that there is around these days, being able to get him fighting fit for their game. But, I think he'll be awesome. It's going to be a massive game having him, Munster, Harry, Grant, even Pappenhausen at the back. There's a lot of firepower in their team, right across the back line. So it was really tough, and there were chances that the Cronulla Sharks had, but they just seemed to be shut down. Nothing was quite working for them. They had a lot of ball, but just couldn't seem to execute a lot of what they were able to the week before a bit more freely.
What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought Nico Hines needed to step up for the Sharks, and he was a bit quiet, I felt, in that game. It's like they played their grand final against the Raiders the week before, where Nico Hines was the man. He was doing everything in that Raiders game. And then in the Storm game, he was really muted. Like he didn't take the last tackle kicking options. I kept going to Trindle. And then I thought, okay, maybe he'll have more of a running game. And even that was quiet. I think he only ran for like 40 or 50 meters the whole game. The Sharks, and I thought Tuka Manu dominated up front. I thought he won that battle with Funor Blake early, and then Adam went off for HIA, and there was stuff that was happening during the game that I thought it just gave the Storm that ascendancy. Toby Rudolph with that hit up after they scored a try, and then he came running back and he got hammered in that tackle. I think it was King or someone
that so good in the last few weeks though.
He got rocked, man, and he was not the same. Like he passed his HIA, but when he came back, he was just like he had no sort of impact, and he wasn't playing with that same sort of vigor that he had at the start of the game, or even against the Raiders the week before. Hamlin Wille was he tries when he comes off the bench, but even he wasn't really able to get any front foot ball for their backs, and so Nico and Trindle was sort of having to create stuff from their own sort of half, and it's difficult when you're trying to create opportunities, last tackle opportunities from your own half. Like most of it was just trying to kick the bloody ball as far as they could, but yeah, man, they kept getting stuck in their own half and nothing was really working for them. And then the opposite could be said of the Storm. Like every time they touched the ball, they were marching it up real easy. Like I said, Stefano had a really good game. Ali had a really good game. There are games where Ali's really dynamic with the footy, where he's the target of like chips or the target of grubbers or the target of short balls. But that game, I felt he really rolled his sleeves up and he just, he just go kingo guy, and he was just bashing it up. It's strange seeing him do just that, and that's pretty much all he was doing, was this battering ram guy. But the Sharks, they had a few guys like Nikora coming back from injury.
I thought he was going to score that. He looked like
and so did I. That is usually Nikora
That's his line,
off that sharp angle, score a try, but then he got held up. And that was Jerome Hughes, I think he ran it. But
it was a brilliant cutter, like they were saying, that particular move. Any other time during the season, he would have scored there hands down. But it was just that defense right at the crucial moment that I think they picked it out that they knew he was coming as well to that.
He it looked like he relaxed at the end, like he knew he had that angle, but kind of on the replay it was just awesome defense. So, I thought he had just kind of casualed in when he got through.
And that was the difference, man. The Storm really muscled up, and they just threw everything
like the Storm
at the Sharks.
Yeah,
hard out. And even Teague Wilton got rocked in this. Like that guy got rocked in an attack when I was like, you fire out. These guys are getting hammered in the forwards, and usually you expect the Storm to just pepper Warbrick or Xavier Coates, but man, they didn't need to. They were Jerome Hughes' try was just a step straight up the middle. And unfortunately, it was Toby Rudolph on the inside who was still probably dazed from when he got head rocked. And they didn't have an answer for Storm on that night. And these are the things that the Broncos will have to be real careful about, because the commentators are talking about how that's their number one spine, the Storm, and they've only played 8 times together this year, and that was the 8th time. But man, when they fire, they're close to unstoppable. So the Broncos need to really do something about disrupting that Storm spine, because when they start to gel,
teetering, he's really like,
He's
like, man, really need to get those gaps. So that'll be a cool matchup. Before we get into that, though, your wrap of the Sharks season, how they went, and how do you think they're going to go next year and why?
Me?
Yeah, we'll start with you.
I think it was a success for them. They probably limped into the top 8, if I'm being honest. They had a few, they were similar to the Warriors. They had a few really unconvincing sort of last 3 or 4 rounds heading into the playoffs. It kind of like similar to the Warriors, they can just kind of limped in. But man, they limped in all the way to being 1 game short of a grand final. So, just when you wanted them to be consistent, they happened to be consistent, and they knocked off the minor premiers last week or the week before. And they didn't just slightly beat the Raiders; they smashed them, man. And poor Ricky, we talked about it heading into that weekend's games about how it was going to be a game too far for the Raiders after that demoralizing loss against the Bronx. So, and sure enough, it played out that way. They just seemed like a team that had everything smashed out of them the week before, and they kind of weren't able to get the energy that they needed to get over the Sharks. And the Sharks came with a plan, and they executed it. It's probably one of Nico Hines' best games of the year, and followed up by one of his quietest games of the year, and that loss against the Storm. Yeah, so I mean, they've done well to get to 1 game short. I didn't think it was a terrible year. It's difficult enough to get into the playoffs but then it's another thing to get into being a preliminary final. So, they were able to almost get there for one game short. I think it was a success for them. They were touting the addition of Adam Fanua-Blake at the start of the year as that missing piece to the puzzle. I think for the majority, Adam's been pretty solid for them. He probably started off a bit quiet, but there were times during the middle of the year where he carried that forward pack, and he was the only one that was sort of showing up. He might not have scored as many tries as he was when he was at the Warriors. You're expecting that Adam Fanua try celebration a bit more this year. I'm sure the Sharks fans would have wanted to see that. But, he was still solid. I thought he took a bit of a backward step in that game against the Storm, and Stefano probably had the wood over him a little bit, which is unusual because, you don't normally see Adam play second fiddle in any sort of matchup. And I think because Stefano has had that matchup with Adam, it's put him in good stead to have this battle coming up with Payne Haas. Like he's taking on Adam Fanua-Blake. He's sort of dominated him a bit, and now he's taking on Payne Haas, who's he's quite arguably the best prop in the game. So he'll be up for it. But in terms of the Sharks season, I think it's a success for them. Fitzgibbon's done really well to get them to where they were this year. He'll be disappointed. He'd probably want a little bit more out of his captain, Nico Hines. Probably was a bit quiet in that game, and if he wanted that game back, there's probably a few things he would have done differently. Probably would have tactically kicked a bit more. I feel like he left too much of the tactical kicking to Trindle, and then that kind of stifled his creativity, and he didn't really sort of have much input into the final result of the game, and it just ended up being a bit flat. Like I felt he could have contributed a bit more in that game. And then the outside backs like Katoa I thought was amazing, but I thought Mulitalo was like, so why don't you just be humble like Katoa and then turn up to the game and fire, not talk your mouth off the whole week and then turn up to the game and Ron Dog got Ron owned. Like I was laughing at the end when they were interviewing Munster, and I think Mulitalo come around behind to shake his hand, like at the end of the game, and Munster turns around and goes, "Hey, Ron Dog." And I was like, Ron Gito is what he was. Ron Dog. He got Ron Dogged, all right.
Quickly, how do you think they go next year?
Do they lose anyone? I don't really follow what roster changes or anything with the Sharks.
They've got much roster changes happening. Sharks off.
So they've had
Kennedy. He'll probably resign. They'll need a lot of
money. Okay. Yeah, even he was quiet in the weekend. He didn't even run for 100 meters. They've had a year. They've had a year now together, and I think they'll be better for it if they keep Trindle and Nico Hines together. They've had a year now, and they know what it takes to get into the top 8 and to get to preliminary final. I reckon they'll be top 8 again next year.
Nice. Anything to add on to the Shark season, Roch?
No, I think Bobby summed it all up. But yeah, a special mention for Sione Katoa, the way that he just gets around his work. He's not the tallest of wingers, and I think he's quite good in the aerial-wise for the height that he has, but it's the momentum that he gains through his speed, and he's just general ball play, but good finisher, and obviously that's why he scored those 2 tries for the Sharks in the weekend. And I think they just need to be a little bit more creative in trying to get, because I guess they depend a lot on Mulitalo, but he was left for dust on the weekend. But I quite like the injection that they pretty much the acquisition of Fanua-Blake came close after a few years at the Warriors and one game short of appearing at a grand final. And I think they'll go good guns next year. Adam Fanua-Blake still in that game against the Storm, 33 tackles, I think about 13 runs and almost 120 meters. So, and compare that to Stefano, I think he was 15 runs, just over 100 meters and 26 tackles. So, man, these guys they're doing a lot of work. Even Hamlin Uele. And Braden there he put in 30 tackles, you know, and he doesn't have that much time as much as some of the other boys that come off when he comes off the bench, but still get through a bit of work with 30 tackles. That's, you know, and I think they'll go good guns because now they've got a good base of experience going into next year. To come this close yet so far, they'll be ruling it, trying to do one better. But I think Cronulla Sharks are in a good space. It's just that compare from the previous week to this week, Nico Hines again just wasn't able to execute as well as he did previously against the Raiders. But I guess that's the pressure that the likes of the Harry Grants and the Munsters are able to put on your play and to sort of deter you from playing, you know, how you were the week before. That helped you get your team into this preliminary final. But I think they've, like Bob said, still a pretty good season. It's a better season than, you know, 12 other teams in the competition.
Manly. Very good, boys. All right, let's jump into the second game, Sunday's game, the Bronx versus the Panthers. No history being made here. None of the teams outside of the top four go on to the GF and have a chance. So, this was the Bronx 14-0 down. Then the Panthers can't find a point in the second half. Heaps to break down on this one. Come back to you first, Rog.
I think it was, Reece Walsh. He's one of those players that a lot of people love to hate. And I don't know whether it's because of his mannerisms, the way he plays the game, the way he conducts himself off the field, or some of the activity he gets up to. But, you know, for skill set and the way that he can win a game and change a game, and that's what he's all about. And that was in their game previous to this one. He showed a lot of that after coming back from a yellow card. In this game, I felt that he took more of a back seat. He was a lot quieter, but there were some assists that he put through that really allowed his team to, you know, he became a target, but if he could get the ball beyond him, it allowed the guys outside him or inside him to be able to play a bit more freely. So quite a game from Reece Walsh that I felt, but still able to contribute to the overall sort of feel. But again, I felt that the Penrith Panthers had the upper hand most of that game, and even the first half, it seemed like they were the ones that were more energized. And I guess it was just the task of how do you undo a 4-time premiership team? And the Broncos, it seemed like they knew they just had to weather the storm. And that's what it felt like, even getting closer to that 60th minute mark. They were still in the game. They were still in the hunt. And then it became like, oh. And then when your man, Katoni Staggs, scored,
Yeah, Katoni.
When he scored that try, and I was like, and he did that famous, "This is our house." I was like, whoa, is it a comeback? Is this really happening? Because even at that point, I felt, the Panthers have got the wood on there. But that was the beginning of the end for the Panthers. And then, you know, it was a few comedy of errors towards the end there for the Panthers. But I felt they needed to take that penalty, that one that they turned down. And they're going for the taps. And I was like, tap and go. Yeah, okay. But, yeah, so that was an interesting strategy. And that came back to bite them in the bum after another try from I forget who scored the next try for the Broncos to bring them back in. Oh, was the guy that they got yellow.
Xavier's.
Yes, the one that, yeah, that just almost like the Red Sea just opened up from him, eh? And a few Melbourne Storm defenders sort of falling in the way there.
Said the Broncos tries were all lucky tries.
Oh, well, you know,
his Storm side talking there.
I was going to
guys firing shots.
Yeah, well, I guess to a degree, but then at the same time, you got to make your own luck as well. So, you know, they were able to create those opportunist tries at the same time. So, I thought with that intercept, that was a tough call. They never really showed that, you know, how they called it. I can't remember who ran away.
Offside, yeah.
Offside, intercepted that. And that would have been it. That would have closed out the game, but that got brought back.
I was kind of disappointed. I was like, oh, unfortunate Bronx. Yeah.
But
when they
at the same time, they had the opportunities to try and seal it with a penalty and make it more difficult. Because at least if they had got that penalty, then we would have gone into golden point or extra time before golden point. So, yeah, I think there was a stat that came through that they were talking about how the Panthers, I think when they are leading, leading at half time, they've never lost. They've never lost a game. They've gone through 98-0. No one scored against them in the second half, I think it was. And so that was their record up until then. And then, Broncos have shown them.
Never lost a day game since 2019.
2019.
Yeah.
And so far out. And they were up. I think the current record was 98 points to nothing. So, but, they've done well. So, for the Broncos to come through.
Yeah, I mean, Cooper Cronk's not wrong. No, I'm serious. He's not wrong. But then Roger's right too. Like, you make your own luck in these kinds of games because the NRL is so tight. Like, never mind the teams that made the top 8. All of those teams that are outside the 8, a bounce of the ball here, a penalty that could have gone this way, a decision that could have gone another way. And things could have been completely different. But that's how tight the competition is. And, you've got to make your own luck. You can't just depend on constructed tries. Right. Yeah, absolutely. Like sometimes it does take eyes up footy or just a really fortunate bounce of the ball into a waiting Xavier Willison when all the defenders have fallen down all around you for him to score his try. And I mean, good on Zaves, bro. Like, these are guys that my son Caleb stayed with when he stayed with Laps. Like he was training with Zave and with Benga, and we know Josiah because he used to play here in New Zealand with Caleb too, and rep teams. He's got mates playing in this grand final for both teams. There's a boy in he calls Chin who plays for Storm. I've forgotten his name now.
Plays for the Panthers.
Nah, he plays for Storm. Who's that guy with the big chin that comes off the bench? Yeah. I've forgotten his name. But he played with Caleb at Wynnum. So, yeah. And he's like, I've forgotten his name.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he's got friends that he's played with, in both teams in the grand final. But yeah, man, you got to make your own luck. And like the Panthers, to their credit, they showed why it was they were the 4-time Prems in that first half. But then in the second half, the Broncos really just had to flip and throw the kitchen sink at them, pull out their wands and weave some magic. Exactly what happened. And they got that Suncorp crowd right behind them. And you know how the Warriors can get at Mount Smart when they've got the crowd behind them on, and that crowd support really helps G the boys up. And I can just imagine how vocal that Suncorp crowd was to help man, and to help get the Broncos over the Panthers. Because come on, man, every team's been wanting to get over the Panthers since they won their first one.
The other team celebrated when that happened.
That's exactly what happened. And I was laughing at Caleb when he was jumping up and down. He's like, yeah, that's for 2021, you bastards. And I was like, whoa, holding on to that Steve Crichton intercept in that South's grand final. And I was like, Sonny, you've been holding on to that for ages. He's like, yeah, stuff you Panthers. Because in that game, Adam Reynolds missed a penalty kick that could have taken it to golden point, and they ended up losing by 2. And I was thinking, suddenly Souths were the ones that started this dynasty, man. They were the ones that let them get through to that first one. And then it was the Souths, then it was Eels, then Bronx, then Storm last year. So, Yeah, so you create your own luck, and that's what it'll come down to. They might prepare as much as they want this week, these two teams, but it's the team on the day. That's how close this competition is. Anyone can beat anyone on the day. It doesn't matter what X Factor players you've got. If those X Factor players don't turn up and they've got rocks, uh, and that's all they're going to give you during that 80-minute stretch, then unfortunately, your team's not going to be the one that wins, but it needs to be everyone across the board to get them across the line. And I feel like the Broncos in the weekend, they kind of just wanted it more. It felt like, honestly, when the Warriors went down to the Panthers, I was thinking, Gifts, is this a feeling of like destiny for these bastard Panthers to get through? And because I thought the Warriors were really competitive against the Panthers.
Yeah.
And then when they lost to them, I was thinking, man, I think the Panthers are like, whew, we got over that one because they cruised through against the Doggies. Like they just,
that was
yeah, man. And they just smashed that Doggies team. And it felt like they believed in themselves more in that Canterbury game than they did against the Warriors. Like just watching that game live, it looked like they were getting a bit flustered because the score was 0-0 for ages, and then it was like real low scoring. The rain, the conditions weren't ideal for like free flowing running footy. We had the win in that first half. But all of that sort of stuff, it builds character, and these guys are full-time premiership winners for a reason. Tom is right, because he's like, win or lose, the Panthers are still winners. He's not wrong. These guys can still lay claim to being full-time champs, and they were only 2 points off another grand final, or 3, and so I think the Broncos getting through, even if Cooper Cronk says that they scored lucky tries, man, they get the shot. They're now in the grand final. They've got the opportunity, and that's all you want. You play all year to get your chance to go to Vegas. That's all you're trying to do. Every other team is trying to battle you to get to that grand final spot, because it doesn't matter what all those other games have been. It doesn't mean jack shit. Now grand final time comes.
You get there.
Yeah, man. However you've prepared, whatever it is you've done, these are the two teams now that are going to vie for the grand final this year. And, man, good on them. Good on the Bronx. Good on Storm. This is the Storm's, 11th grand final in 20 years or something they were saying. I was like, what? Yeah, that's crazy to think that a team has been that successful in 2 decades under Bellamy, and they've finished either first, second, or third in the last 20 years. So, I think outside, one last place. They got a wooden spoon for getting all their points docked. Yeah. But it was a good game, and the Bronx deserve to be in the grand final.
Probably an easy one. Let's just quickly. Any thoughts? The Panthers next year. I saw that Cleary in the presser. One of the guys asked him like, how's it feel that the dynasty's ended? He's like, ended? Nothing's ended. And it's true, like how you're saying with the Queensland dynasty, like you playing it over 10 years, then 20 years, like it all counts. Like you just keep adding them. And I think he's very much right. Like, I think they have built a good thing there at the Panthers, from the ground up, and they still have, they've been through all these changes and been able to, only now, and I think maybe fatigue that they missed out, and like we keep saying, it's really hard to win a premiership, and everything has to go right for you. So I think I think the Panthers are back again next year, and probably a real threat. Like, just how young these guys are, and just the China champions they have in their team. They're going to find a way to make it really hurt and make it count to come back. Because, we're trying to say, what do they find to make this count? Because it's like, 5 in a row. How, after you get 1, how do you get up to get 2, then 3, then 4, and now 5? Yeah, and maybe it was maybe they wanted to go with a style rather than just taking that penalty. I don't know. Like, it just seems like it's like a mindset. It almost looked like for them to make sure that they can be ready for the final next year. That's how they wanted to play that game. And so I think maybe that was their approach. Like, let's just go for it. So if we're not brave enough to go for it now, come next week, what's the point? So maybe that was their. We don't
Remember last year
and fail. Who cares?
Remember last year when I think they were down, but they trusted their system regardless, and they just kept on playing the way that they had trained to play, the way they planned to play, regardless of the deficit. And maybe that was them just trusting their game plan and to try and get, put more scoreboard pressure on, and they had that belief to score a try as opposed to go for just 2 points.
Yeah.
But what made the Panthers even that more brilliant for them to get as far as they did in this playoff format was that, the start of the year that they had, they were down in last place, and to be able to fight their way back with all the losses that they had at the beginning of the season, to fight their way back and make one game short of the grand final. Yeah, they may not have won it. They may have made the grand final and may not have won it if they were to play the Storm. But for them to be able to still be competitive at the back end of the season, well, all the other teams have dropped off now and made their season, I think it was even more special for them to be able to get this as far as they did, having lost so many players over the last 3-4 seasons.
Boys, let's get into this GF. Down to 2 teams, and let's break it down, kind of our thoughts on it. First thing I want to just start with before we kind of get into how the game's going to get played out, just the conditioning of both teams. Like you think about the Storm's run, both teams had the rest, but the Storm, I feel, had the easier of the two. Like they got the Dogs, and then kind of in that game, the Dogs lost critter. So very much like what Panthers got, like the Dogs put up a good fight, but without critter, like it was a walkover for the Storm. So they kind of got through that game, have a rest, even though they'd lost Jerome. So and then they got Jerome back last week, and they looked great. And again, they got through that game, and just the stop-start nature of it wasn't like there was no fatigue built up in that game. So it was a game that the Storm can control. And now they get themselves into a GF. You look at the Broncos, that Raiders game, into extra time, and they're banging it out against each other. And Reece Walsh Magic gets them through. They get the rest. Come back last week with another cracker. Like you saw even Panthers players, like everyone was gassed in that game. Like they really, I was surprised. I never seen the Panthers like some of those opportunities, and they just look slow, like just their movements, like even their set plays. Mitch Kennedy kind of was getting his passes off, but it just, you see a lot of fatigue, so it looks like another real challenging and, real close, just physical game again for the Broncos. So I just wonder how much of that's going to impact for them. I mean, credit to Midge, like people, Buzz was giving them crap about the spew buckets and how hard he was training these guys. But Stacey mentioned it last week, the year he had with the Kiwis took it, the year he came in, took New South Wales, took it, and then taking over these guys with a real hard line, and it looked like, these guys can't handle it. You got to put your heart out for Marty Tapau, Make one little comment. He might have been even playing in this. He could have been here. And just that little comment I saw on Facebook the other day, I don't know what he's doing now. He's making like some steaks or something. I don't know if he's become a blogger or... yeah, but man, it's going to be interesting. Just a lot of different factors. Come to you first, Bobby. Just your thoughts. What's the difference in this game? Where's going to be one?
That is a good question. One that we could probably speculate on all night. But I think it probably comes down to those X factor players turning up with diamonds in their games. Like Reece Walsh can't turn up and have rocks. You know what you're going to get out of guys like Payne Haas. Like those guys are going to get you meters. They're going to get you yardage. They're going to get you front football. You're going to need Adam Reynolds. And I don't know who his halves partner is going to be, but this is one thing that I pointed out to Caleb when we were watching that game. And I don't know if the Bronx boys are watching this and whether they can jump on the chat and disagree with me. But I felt like when Ben Hunt went into hooker and Pakes came off, I felt like he was a bit Lukuleanga to Mam and he didn't want to pass him the ball. Like he'd look this way, see Mam, and then turn the other way and pass to Reynolds. Like it just had that sort of feeling that, oh man, I'm a better standoff than you. I don't know why. Match brings you on and then puts me here at hooker. You know, there was a couple of times that sort of happened, and I feel like that's gonna hinder the game. I feel like if Mam comes on, he should just come on and sub Hunt off and just leave Corey there at hooker, like because Pakes would just look up and play eyes up footy, like whatever's there. You know, if it's Reynolds to go, then sweet. Or sometimes he might make his own decision of Mam screaming louder. I don't know, but it felt like in the weekend that Ben Hunt might have had a bit of Lukuleanganess about him, and that is probably going to be the downfall of the Broncos if that's something that's actually real. If it's not, then sweet. The other thing I think that Reece needs to control is his temper. Like I think if the game's not going the Bronx way, and if he doesn't get a ball, like if he's running through a gap and he doesn't get a short ball from somebody, then he shouldn't turn around and blow them up like he was doing it like Tony halfway through the year, or blowing up at Carrigan, blowing up at somebody for not passing him the ball. Like I know he wants to be the show pony guy that does all the things that get noticed. Like you see it all the time when he's scoring tries and he's looking straight up at the big screen to see what he looks like, or you know how he looks scoring his try, doing his backflips, all that sort of stuff. But I feel like if he's able to control, have a bit of a measured approach to just how he reacts to stuff, not how he plays, but just how he reacts, because you can't really put any sort of control on how he plays. He's more electric, just doing things spontaneously, and that's kind of what you want from Reece, doing it spontaneous, doing it unexpectedly. He's got that flipping lightning quick off the mark pace where he just runs straight through gaps and past defenders. But I feel it's the reaction to, like, if he's knocked the ball on, or if he's thrown a stupid pass forward, or a call doesn't go his way, he doesn't then mouth off at the referee and then get the ref offside with him during the game. It's all those little things that are quite controllable for the Broncos that they need to get under control. Like, it's not something that's beyond their control. I think Reece needs to rein that sort of stuff in, because this is a grand final, man, and you don't want to give away a stupid penalty at a really dumb time and really great field position for the opposition. You don't want to lose a game by doing something stupid. That's probably where I'm going with that. So I feel like the Broncos have the X factor to do it, but they just need to control how it is that they react to certain things. For Storm, though, like, those guys are real methodical. Like, they stick to their processes, and then just when you think they're going to just stick to their processes all the way, Jerome Hughes will spot a gap, and then he's gone. Like, he's an eyes-up player, Jerome, and he'll play methodical and do those little inside-outside or outside-inside to Pappenhausen passes. But, man, if he spots a gap and he sees a lady defender like he did last week with Toby Rudolph, man, he's gone. And so those inside big forwards, like the Payne Haases of the world, Carrigans, like all of those guys, Hetherington, they need to they need to be really wary around Jerome Hughes' running game, because if he's in a mood at grand final time, that's where I think is key for Storm. Jerome Hughes' running game, and then just Reece Walsh's X factor and just controlling how it is that he reacts to situations, because the man can be rocks and diamonds, like we've said all year, but he needs to be diamonds in a grand final. You can't afford to bring any of your rocks, bro. So yeah, that's the key for me. Reece Walsh for the Broncos, and then Jerome Hughes doing what Jerome Hughes does for the Storm.
Rog, just before I come to you, I'm really excited and glad there's no New South Wales teams in this final, and there's 12 Queenslanders in this grand final. That's a superb thing. Your thoughts on this game, Rog?
Yeah, you didn't need to segue through to that. Anyway, I'm excited because you know, if you're going to talk about Queensland players, then there's a number of New South Welshmen in there too. Pappenhausen, to say one. I'm excited about it too. You know, this is going to be a really exciting grand final. When you're talking about the backlines just in and the forwards, Bob, there's some star-studded lineups here. You know, starting with the Storm, you know, with Jerome Hughes, Harry Grant, Munster. But then, you know, when Jerome will just be able to just pop up and orchestrate things with Munster at the back there. And then you've got a couple of, you know, sort of some star centres there as well. Ryan Pappenhausen, just to create a little bit of a few headaches for the Broncos backline and trying to seize any of the gaps as you guys were talking about. But I think it's just, you know, the concerns around Jerome Hughes' fitness as well that I think have now been put to bed after his showing on the weekend. And I think that's what's going to be really difficult for the Broncos to try and contain the attacking prowess of the Storm. But the thing is, what we saw with the Broncos, how they were able to repel the attack that the Panthers would bring, especially, you know, for that whole 60-odd minutes, and then to score 16 points, unanswered points against the Panthers to bring it home. I think that was the telling stat on the weekend, where they were able to weather the storm. And now they have to try and literally do that against a team of the same name. But then when you go into the backs that the Broncos have, you know, you've got Katoni Staggs, Shibasaki in the centres, and then they link up with a probing Reece Walsh, you know, when he comes in and injects his own havoc around any sort of would-be tacklers if they're going to be complacent around his, you know, all of his footwork and his skills. But then you go to the veterans that you got in Adam Reynolds, Ben Hunt, you know, these guys have been there before. And it's for these two especially, you know, it's a bit of redemption for them. You know, I think Reynolds 4 years ago, and this is Ben Hunt's second grand final. Is it his second grand final appearance?
Yeah. The one. Oh, was he there? 23? No, he wasn't even there.
Yeah. So, but I think they got the confidence to be able to deal with anything that the Storm sort of bring to the fore. But then we go to the forward packs, and that's what excites me even more. Is that the forward packs? You got all these stuff, you know, was talked about, the Carrigans, the Payne Haas, the back row you got Piakura, Jordan Ricky, Hetherington, and then Willison as well. And we saw what Willison was able to do last year. And then the Storm have got Utoi Kamanu, like Stefano, Josh King up front, Eliesa Katoa, Trent Loiero, it's his 100th game as well. So massive occasion for him, massive occasion for the Storm. let alone being a grand final. It's also Bellamy's. He surpasses the record that he held with Wayne Bennett in 10 grand finals. This is his 11th grand final. But then Payne Haas, what he does. Oh no, sorry, not talking about Payne Haas. Go back to Payne Haas. But then you got a bench with awesome story in Lisati, Ativalu Lisati, and then Kamikamitha that comes off the bench, and they're able to. On paper, you'd think the Broncos, like you were saying, are slightly ahead, but man, Bellamy's able to get the best out of his forwards, best out of his players, and especially at occasions like this, I think it's going to be hard. That it's going to be difficult that they let their coach down, let down their fan base down. But we look at the stats that Payne Haas showed in that last game. Oh no, I just lost it. 80. He played 80 minutes. He played 80 minutes, 186 meters run. 70 of those were post-contact meters. But then, I thought I was astounded by, Hamlin Uele's 30 tackles that he got through. Adam Fanor-Blake got 33. And he got 46 tackles in the time that he was on the field. He's a machine. And I think that's the telling stats that he can produce that puts him head and shoulders above a lot of the rest of the front rowers in this competition. He's a premier forward. He's a premier player, and the engine that Haas has, the Broncos will be depending heavily on to get him through. But then I've got a few more other stats. Going into this game, the Storm have beaten the Broncos 17 out of the last 19 games. Stats are there, records are there to be broken. Just putting it out there. 17 out of the last 19 games has gone the Storm's way. Broncos utility Hunt will join Lockyer in third place on all-time appearances. Jerome Hughes has scored 12 tries out of 13 games versus the Broncos. Tony Staggs has scored 8 tries in the last 8 games. Then you've got Broncos. I've only won 3 out of 11 at Accor Stadium. And then here's a good one here. 15 Storm players have played 21 grand finals. We'll talk about experience and what experience does. 15 of those players have got a total of 21. But then nothing to be sneezed at as well with the Broncos. 12 of their players have played a total of 14 grand finals. There's a lot of experience, a lot of skill sets. Man, this is going to be one heck of a exciting grand final, and I'm excited, regardless of whether the Broncos or Storm are teams that you normally support. It's going to be a firecracker of a grand final. It's going to be fireworks all day, and I can't pick it. Despite all those stats, it could go either way on the day. But I think, for me, the Storm have the edge just because of the Bellamy factor.
Making a call. This guy's made his prediction. Storm it is. Yeah, good matchups, good stats across the board, bro. Like, it's really hard to pick, where the differences are across, all the different positions. So I think I'm looking across it. I think you're right. Some of those positions. I think it's Katoni, Staggs, and Reece Walsh. Just that matchup, like Jack Howarth. Hopefully, he might get a call up into the Kiwis. He's been solid for the Storm, just kind of fixing and filling that space in there, and coming back. I think he got injured earlier and he came back. But yeah, I think that matchup that he might have in the middle there, whether he's on the same side as Katoni or Shibasaki, I think for the Broncos, it's probably going to happen there in that battle there in the centres. But yeah, for the Storm, for me, I very much think it's that style of Money and Hughes in the middle. It'll be interesting if they bring Ezra in to match just that ball play of Munster in the middle. But yeah, I think for the Storm, it'll be one in the halves, and the Bronx, it's probably going to be in the centres. I'll bounce back to you, Bobby. What's your call, man? Like, what are you going to call it? Man?
It's a tough one, man. But, Rog sort of touches on a little bit about redemption for some of those Broncos players. And yeah, this has been Hunt's second And we all remember what happened in 2015 when he was playing against the Cowboys, and they did that kickoff down to him, and he's had a Minties moment, and that enabled the the Cowboys to come back. But also the same with Reynolds, and those guys are the starting halves pair, I think. Reynolds got some demons too. 21 against the Panthers, 23 with the Bronx. He won it all the way back in 2013, I think it was, with Souths. When he was still a rookie, he was still a young gun back then. So this is his fourth grand final, and an opportunity for him to get one back after that capitulation 2 years ago. And that'll be weighing on his mind a bit. Even that 2021 grand final at Souths, the biggest losers here, I think, is Souths, man, who didn't offer him a contract back then when they should have re-signed him. Since then, he's gone to take the Broncos on to 2 grand finals. It's like, come on, you don't not sign the halfback that just took you to a grand final, and then stupid. It's this is one call that Caleb keeps talking about. It's like stupid, but I think experience for me, like what Rog says, not really the stats. The stats don't really count on the day, but I think on the day, it's the experience. And you can't write off the Storm. There's just too much experience there. And I feel like the Broncos, they did really well to get over the Panthers, but they need to get themselves up again to get over another really, really mighty franchise. It's not just another team in the grand final. Like, they had to get over 4-time premiers in the Panthers, and now they've got to get over the most successful team in terms of teams that have made grand finals, teams that have gotten into the playoffs in the last 20 years. And it's the Storm. Like, they've been the benchmark. Yes, the Panthers have won 4 in a row, but the Storm have been the benchmark. Now, you can look past their 07-09 titles being stripped and the salary cap breaches and all that. That did not slow down the juggernaut that's been the Melbourne Storm. Like, you would have thought, oh, shame, this club only got there by cheating. But they have proven everyone wrong, that it didn't matter who was there. It was the system that made those players stay and want to play for less money or whatever. It didn't matter that they lost GI, they lost Folau, they lost all of these players that were there back then. They were still able to get teams into the playoffs and to be competitive, and to make grand finals and to win grand finals. This is no hate, honestly, to the Broncos boys, because like I said, I'd love for some of those Broncos boys, young boys that Caleb played with, to win their first chip, for Reno to get one, for Ben Hunt to put the demons of 2015 to rest. I just feel like the Storm might have too much experience on their side. And again, my caveat for these things is, it doesn't matter who you pick on the day, man. It's the team that wants it more. Like, we could say Storm all day, and then the Broncos just come and show us, sorry, we want to actually win this one. We know we've got what it takes. We took out the 4-time premiers that no one's been able to do in the last 5 years. And so now we're here to absolutely lay our stake in the ground and claim the NRL title, and to say that it's ours. And if they do that, man, good on them. Like, the Broncos have had an up and down season. To be honest, it kind of was touch and go for a little bit, and then they just stormed into the finals, stormed into the top 4. They had a really good run of wins that saw them sort of detach themselves from that chasing group where everyone was trying to drag each other down in these last few weeks of the normal rounds. And then they managed to bump the Warriors off from 4th. And, the boys with John and Simon were really just talking them up. That confidence started to grow, and then it grew even more after that first week. And Man, and rightly so. Like, we'd be the same if it was Manly for Raj and Cam, if it was the Warriors for us. Hard out. Like, we'd be exactly the same. But right now, all we can be is super loco leanga because our teams aren't
It doesn't
there.
matter what we say for the Broncos. John's going to say, there's a lot of hate. There's a lot of hate. It's
Nah,
not hate,
it's not
man.
hate, man. It's not hate. It really isn't. I mean, to be honest, I don't care who wins in this weekend. I'm just calling how I feel it might go because of experience, because those guys have been there, done that. And also, Reece Walsh is just a real unknown. He's unknown for me. Like, I know what he can bring, X Factor and all, but it's the Reece Walsh. Who's the Reece Walsh that's going to turn up on the day?
Just not
If
the
it's Diamonds
consistency,
Reece
the
Walsh,
lack of consistency.
yeah, it's exactly that. Like, if it's Diamonds Reece Walsh, Black Storm ain't got a prayer. But if it's Rocks Reece Walsh and he's throwing forward passes, or he's overreacting, or he's blowing up at his teammates, if it's any of that sort of crap that Reece has been known to do in the past, then it's an uphill battle for the Broncos, and one I don't think they can get over. But if Reece comes being Diamonds Reece Walsh, then they can absolutely smash the Storm. But right now, I'm going on just normal Reece Walsh. And normal Reece Walsh is not enough to overcome the experience of the Storm. The Broncos need Diamonds Reece Walsh to turn up. And
then
if that
Ta'alu
happens,
Leanga, Mam injects into the game and ruins it even more.
Yeah, Mam too is an unknown, because that guy, with his zero awareness of the shit that was surrounding him at the start of the year, I don't know, like, you know, and then he comes and he plays this whole fear, tough, kind of get in people's faces type role. Those guys just need to not do that stuff. Play the mind games, absolutely, but don't react to stuff. And that's where I feel like the Storm will have it over the Broncos. Like, I feel like they'll be able to get niggly and under the skin of the Bronx, and they'll get guys to react like the Mams, like the Reece Walshes. And
what I liked about what Mam did, again, you know, when he sort of created that little bit of a ruckus, I think that's mind games in itself. Although he's trying to be the physical on Cleary, but then he wants a reaction by one of the players. Martin comes in, right? And he's got the penalty. You know, he would have got the penalty. They would have been penalised otherwise. But then because there's been a reaction from Martin, then Martin's the retaliator. You're off. So I understand, but that's risky business. Risky business. Risky is.
That could be a strategy.
And I think, touching on one of your points that you made, Bob, about how the Panthers were done away with, you know, with the Broncos being able to clinch that one and get home. They've proven that they deserve to be at the grand final by eliminating the Premiers. But at the same time, my concern is they won't be able to do it in the same fashion. They won't be able to come from a deficit from behind against a Storm team. So they'll have to, you know, try and put their best foot forward. Be patient at the same time, but I think they need to lay on the points as early as they can, as opposed to coming from behind. I don't think they'll get away with that versus a team like the Storm. Just my 5 cents.
I love a good fairy tale. And so I wouldn't actually mind the Broncos doing it, like, because everything's against them. Like, they the road they took, like, you know, they got the week off, but they had to do it the hard way. Like, Canberra thought they won twice, but the Broncos took out the minor premiers, you know, so they held in long enough and were able to take out the minor premiers, and then come back last week and take out, you know, one of the best teams over the last 6 years. And so I think those things are starting to add up. Their defense as well, like, that's probably the most impressive defense we've seen, and just gutsy defense, like you mentioned, Roger, against the Storm, against the Panthers. Probably, maybe 8 weeks ago, you would have looked at the Broncos and gone, this team doesn't come back. But what they're putting together, and I think that's what we keep saying, like, the competition is such a hard thing to win and get right, and things have to fall in place. And I don't know, timing, the way Madge has whipped these guys into shape, and just the way he goes about it, maybe that's how he plans his, you know, preparation in terms of timing, how to get people ready. like we keep talking about the rocks and diamonds of Reece Walsh, but he's been more diamonds for a few weeks now. And so I think we keep looking back at how they were travelling either prior to that run into the 8. Stories like Shibashaki, like Dean Mariner, even Keapani, like these guys were last year. They kind of seemed like they were falling off the radar. They'd fallen out of favour. So for these guys to get those opportunities again, Ben Hunt, redemption there, and a Reynolds, there's like so many. I mean, Patrick Carrigan, the fact that he may have not, he would have been watching from the sidelines of the season and watching the boys go out last week because of, being penalised for what a lot of people thought was contentious. So, yeah, just so many storylines in this. Ezra Mam, the opportunity for redemption, like he almost single-handedly won it there for them against the Panthers, and then I think they thought they did win it. So I think that's going to hurt. So I think having guys like that on the field, like you're saying, it's that team that wants it more. And I think right now the Broncos might have a bit of that. Just, I think everyone's like those kind of stats Roger reads out. The bookies all go, well, okay, let's just go Storm. So I think the recipe is right for the Broncos to do a fairy tale here. And just with some of these players, like you're saying, that it depends on who comes on the day. And the way Madge has gone with those other teams, I think he gets the recipe right for this weekend with the Broncos. Payne Haas picking up Clive Churchill, I reckon. He's been impressive all year, but I think he could really stamp his name on this game. Like he's a beast, and I think he just keeps impressing and goes one more. So that's my call for the Broncos. You pay me later, Si, just to support you since you couldn't make it on. Nice.
Ooh.
Oh, here we go. Got some latest information coming in from the Dally M's. Maki Marks one. Nice. Noangani Tawase picking up try of the year with that freakish. I think it must be that one, that one where he hopped and he kicked it back in field. Nice. Thank you, producer Cam, for those updates. What was Ethan Strange's one?
Saver.
I'll try Saver of the year. Yeah, unfortunately that's recording right now, so we won't get all the Dally M predictions or the results through. So hopefully we'll pick those up in the next episode if we do run it back next week. Shuttle Saws, any final thoughts before we close out before the grand final on Sunday? Are you guys watching it? Plans for Sunday, Bobby?
I don't know. Probably just watch it at home. I think the curtain rails is probably more important for us.
Yeah, man.
Oh, yeah, they'll play that one before the
New South Wales Cup.
Nice.
Yeah, the interstate championship's up for grabs. So
Is
the Warriors will be taking on Burleigh
Kelly's
Bears.
boy in that game?
Nah, he's in the other one.
I don't know.
Or was he in the younger grade?
Yeah, I don't know. So
Nice.
yeah, probably just watching it at home.
Roger, any last words? Were you watching the game?
I think I'm just going to watch it. Bob, I figured out we are about 15 minutes apart, eh? So I could come up to your place. Come up to your place and watch it there. And yeah, I think last words is I think as much stick as a lot of people give and label young Reece Walsh, I think there was a moment. There was a moment in the game against the Panthers where he took a kick return against the Premiers, and there was no, fancy footwork or anything. He just charged straight at the Kangaroos prop, Lindsay Smith, and our New Zealand back rower, Scott Sorensen, bending the line before Blaise Langi helped push him back. He came back for just 3 he came back for more just 3 tackles later. And I heard up that, he's only 177 centimetre tall, 88 kg fullback, had no business in making that kind of a hit up. But it hurt the Panthers. Sorensen knocked heads with Talangi. His game was over in 90 seconds. And there'll be moments like that. And that's not normal sort of moments that we attribute to Reece Walsh, because he's all about the game breaker, scoring the try, getting the kick over. But I guess another telling moment was we handed the kicking tee over to Reynolds, and Reynolds got the flowers, and he got the 2 points that they needed to eliminate and give and hand the Panthers their first playoff loss in 5 years. So I think there'll be moments like that will get the home team or get the team home for this grand final. I'm just excited to see it all unfold and ride the roller coaster that will be on Sunday. So,
should we just go to
let
John's
the fireworks
house?
begin.
So up the wires. Up the wires.
Up the New South Wales wires.
And I don't want my son to be dancing for any other team again.
That's a lot of changes, guys.
Get excited just because his mate's team lost.
All right, boys. Thanks for joining me. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in, listening to another episode of the 135 Footy Show. Please go check us out on all socials and the website, www.weswesnet.com. Off tape. Catch you guys next week.
Sweet 4. Get manly. 326.
Boys.